in the shadows way too long. You always thought that you were weak, but babe, you're wrong. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Think that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You shouldn't doubt yourself, 'cause you're a work of art. You should know that you are perfect with those flaws. Yeah, you better step into the light, just give it a try. Know that it's time you let that spark out. You've been hiding in the shadows way too long. And who cares if you might mess it up? You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine. You're stronger than the others think. And who cares if you might mess it up? Shine, go ahead and shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine, shine, darling, go ahead and shine, my dear. 'Cause who cares if you might mess it up? Just shine.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us, and welcome to A Turn of Events, where we help put a positive spin on the future of your business. I'm Annette Nave, the founder and creative director of Nave Productions. We're a strategic event production company based in New York City, specializing in corporate, social, nonprofit, and weddings. I'm also a coach for wedding and event planners who are looking to start their own business, wedding and event business, or for those who are struggling in their current business. If you are a wedding planner or event planner and you would like to join our Facebook group, please join us over at Event Planner Society. There's a bunch of driven, creative, and passionate wedding and event planners in there. We bring planners together from all over the world to network, gain referrals, improve your mindset, and build their businesses. So please join us over at Event Planner Society. I'm super excited about our next guest, Wendy Kay. She is the owner and creative director of Birds of a Feather Events. Thriving on creating something from nothing, Wendy welcomes the creative challenge and complex logistics required to literally build an event from the ground up. From design conception to collaborating with the creative team and directing the day of execution. Wendy respects each stage of the wedding planning process, considering the journey just as important as the destination. A former television producer, Wendy transferred her talents from directing live TV to weddings. Over a decade since creating Birds of a Feather events, she continues to lean on her problem-solving skills while remaining quick on her feet on event days. Named a top wedding planner and event designer by Martha Stewart Weddings and best wedding planner in America by Brides, Wendy really is an idea machine. Whether cozy interiors, artful window displays, or wizardly words, Wendy uses her love of design, set design as inspiration to translate the stories of her clients through expected details. We're going to talk about cultivating a curated creative team. I'm super excited. Wendy, thank you so much for being here.
Hi, how are you? I love that you're like based in New York and you've got a million palm trees.
I know, and I know, but half the year I'm in Florida. So
I'm like, is that Staten Island? Like, what are we looking at here?
I know, that's fantastic. I love that. Yeah, I'm lucky to be in Florida in the winter time, but the company is, we do events all over the place, but as you know, so, but yes, I'm lucky to be in Florida, and I forgot my background was that. So thanks for pointing that out. So I really want to know, I actually was a producer as well myself before I got into events. So I want to know, before we get into the nitty gritty of this, how did you go from a television producer to weddings?
Well, I'm a statistic. They say something like 90% of wedding planners become wedding planners after planning their own wedding. Guilty. I absolutely did that. I had been working in TV and I'd done everything from being a production assistant to editing, directing, producing. And whenever I left the company, I was the production manager. But my creativity was really stifled working there. It was an old boys club, and everything they did and produced was for rural America, which is not my vibe at all. I'm a city girl, even though I don't live in the city. I live in the suburbs. I just wasn't into cattle and dairy milk and horses and all of that stuff. And so I planned my own wedding, and I'm like, this is a really great creative outlet for me. And I started helping other people plan their wedding. And I'm like, this kind of is the best of both worlds, because I can use all of those type A personality traits that I have producing, and all of those day of aspects that you need on a wedding day come in when you're directing live TV. We always used to say, we're going live whether you're ready or not. And that wedding day is happening whether you're ready or not. We like to say that our jobs are kind of like contractors, but not really, right? They're like, 3 more weeks. And they just keep giving you these imaginary deadlines that never seem to happen. Well, weddings don't work that way, right? The wedding is happening on the date that the wedding's happening, and you better be ready for it.
Yeah.
So I thought all of these skill sets that I already have transfer over to this, and I get to do the creative stuff too, that I'm sold on that.
Yeah.
And so I kept that day job for a year. And then after a year, I was able to quit and run my business full time.
That's fantastic. I love that story. And I totally understand that. So, all right, so let's jump in. So what does it mean to have a curated creative team?
So for me, that means that I am generally working with the same people over and over again with all of my events. I think you have to put a lot of trust into people, whether you are doing a wedding that is budget friendly, middle market, luxury, ultra luxury, no matter what, you have to put a lot of trust into your team, because the only way your business is going to grow and for you to profit and make more money is if you are producing successful events.
Correct.
And not every single vendor that comes on the scene is a good vendor. There are other dummies like me who woke up and they're like, I'm a wedding photographer, I'm a stationer, right? Like, just like go get the business cards. I had somebody on Etsy design the website, and I was whatever I said I was. There's like a really low bar of entry in our industry, and most of us don't have a ton of overhead immediately whenever we come into the industry, right?
Right.
We have an entrepreneurial spirit. That's what we have. And we just start the work, and we realize that some of us are really cut out to be business owners, and some of them just aren't.
Right.
You can make pretty paper, you can make pretty flowers, but you can't run a business, and you currently are unable to pay somebody else to run that business for you, so it fizzles out. So that is extremely important to me, that I'm bringing people on that aren't going to make me look bad, right? Because I made them look really good when I sold them to the client, and I need them to do their job the rest of it by killing it, knocking it out of the park, doing everything they said that they were going to do, and meeting client expectations.
Yeah. It's definitely a reflection on you. If your team and the people you're recruiting are not good. When I first started, which was 15 years ago, I
did 2010.
Yeah. I did not have a team, obviously. It was me trying to figure out. I had done events for 20 years prior to that, but I had no clue how to run the business, and I couldn't even find anybody to coach me on that, because they weren't really doing that back in those days. So, so I hired a VA. What's this VA thing that everybody's doing? So I hired a VA. She came in half of the year. I was like maybe 6 or 7 months into the business. I hired someone to kind of just help me with some things I needed. You always should have someone on site with you. You should never do an event by yourself. That's just a complete disaster if you do. And of course, when you first start, you don't know that. You're like, oh, I can go take care of this wedding and all by myself. Never going to happen. So it's horrible when you do that. So I started out the same way. And then of course it's grown and grown and grown, but you really, and then I remember someone telling me they did not allow anybody to bring in, like, Aunt Betsy's gonna make the cake, and their friend is the DJ, and we don't like that either, unless it's someone like it's like there's so many limits to that, but we do not allow people to bring in their own friends and family and things like that as well. So I think that's, when you do that, it can be a complete disaster, and it makes you look bad if they mess up,
Yeah, I actually won't even take on a wedding if they've already selected vendors, unless they're vendors that I'm already regularly working with, because they could be really great vendors. But if we aren't on the same page with what things need to look like, or the communication, the flow of things, then it's just going to be more work for me. And then the end product is not going to be as good.
Right. Completely agree. So what are the key qualities that you look for in a wedding planner's dream team?
Communication, that is number one. If you cannot respond to an email in a timely manner, or you tell me you're going to get me an invoice by the end of the week and you don't, that's a big red flag to me. I can't work with you because I can't do my job. And again, it's something that makes me look bad to the client, right? We've told the client we're going to get you this invoice by the end of the week because that's what the florist, the stationer, whoever told me. And then when it doesn't happen, my client's never even spoken to the florist or the stationer. So a stranger isn't going to get blamed. I'm going to be the one that gets blamed. And all that goes back to trust, right? The communication end of things. And I do think a lot of vendors kind of drop the ball on communication for sure. The creativity is another huge one. I need you to be on the same level as me. And that doesn't mean like I'm some amazing creative. It just means that we need to have the same vision for things, right? There are people that do very glam ballroom events and they have their own creativity, but I don't do that. So those two things don't mesh together. I can't bring somebody onto my team that is their zone of genius when that's not what I'm producing, because what's going to come out is a big old mess. You know, like conjoined twins is going to come out of that, and it's not going to look good, and the client's not going to be happy. I need them to have the same vision as me, because the client hired me. They've seen my portfolio and my work, and that's what their expectations are. So I can't just bring anybody in. They sent me a cold email and they're like, our vision is the same. We should work together. And then I go look at their Instagram and the stuff they're posting is completely different than anything that I do. And I'm telling you, I'm sure with you as well, that happens constantly. The constant cold DMs, cold emails, you know, please give me a job. And I'm like, I don't know you. I can't help you. But yes, the creativity is extremely important. The communication is very important. And just knowing that that person can handle the stress of this job. And they're not going to crack under pressure. Whenever we get to the wedding day, they're going to deliver. And I also need to know how the people on my team are motivated, right? on a wedding. I find that most of my people are motivated by potential disappointment. So it doesn't help me to walk around and yell and scream at people on a wedding day. Like I don't enjoy that. Nobody else enjoys that. It's far more productive to walk around and look at your watch and tell the florist, does it look like you're going to finish on time? That's all you need to say.
Yeah.
And then they get it into gear and it gets done. But I've realized that most florists that are the most creative florists, the deadline, it doesn't exist. They just keep going. They just keep touching things and moving things until that first guest walks into the space. And then they're done.
Yeah, you made a couple really good points. One is you need to make sure that you're communicating with your vendors on site. Okay, we have an hour to go. Like they're not paying attention to the time. They're being creative. They're doing their thing, which is great. That's what we hired them for. But you have to make sure that you let your vendors know what the time is, because they could go on forever, as you said. And the other thing was, you said you don't do these ballroom event, weddings and things like that. So that's a thing that's really important, is getting clear on what is it that you are specializing in. So you do tented weddings and things like that, right? Destination. Yeah. So it's important to know there are differences in this industry. I mean, if you do everything, then you do, but it's very good to be clear and understand. I do corporate stuff as well. And when I hire a DJ that's going to do a corporate event, it's got to be a DJ that understands how to handle or run a show that's an event, not a wedding. It's a totally different thing. You're not on a dance floor and you're playing. There are different times that things have to happen on the run of show when it's a corporate thing. So it's totally different. So and even photographers that are wedding photographers the corporate photographers might not have ever shot a wedding. So you need to make sure that you're clear on the expertise of these vendors, right?
Yeah. I mean, most of the people that I work with, I have been working with for a decade.
Yeah.
And I'll bring somebody new into the fold every once in a while. But when I say new, I mean, I've been friends with this person through networking for probably 5 years. And I'm just now getting to work with them because I need to build that trust up with that person. And they need to have some sort of social proof, right? That they are actually doing a good job for other people and I'm liking their work. And generally the only time I think planners work with brand new to them vendors is through a recommendation through another wedding planner that we actually trust, right? Because even if you're working in that lower middle market or budget sector and you've just started your business, you're probably still, if you're successful anyways, or on your way to being successful and are business minded, you're probably not one of those people going on Facebook and just doing an open call in, your town's Facebook group of, I have a wedding and I need a baker and I need a florist and I need a stationer. And you're just kind of taking anybody on that comes your way. Generally, it's people you've probably met at like local open houses or networking events, or if you're in WIPA or any kind of group like that, these are people that you've probably had some sort of connection with.
Right.
I think a lot of that goes back to us being women as well, right?
Yeah.
Trust issues, like we need to vet you and make sure you're cool and you're not going to be weird. And we're not just picking up anybody off the street generally.
Yeah. That's so true. Like if you recommended somebody to me, I wouldn't even think twice about it because I know your history, you've been in the business a long time and what level you're at with your weddings and things like that. So you definitely want to be clear on who is referring somebody to you because that's important as well. So yeah, that's great stuff. So how do you balance artistic vision with logistical expertise when selecting team members?
I mean, sometimes that's difficult, right? The people that are ultra creative, you've got to make sure that they have a team of people surrounding them that are going to do all of that logistical stuff because they're either not capable of it or they've put themselves a square peg into a round hole and they just keep hammering with that mallet to get themselves in there, but it's not really where they excel at. So most of the people that I work with, photographers, stationers, florists, they're not an island. They're not solopreneurs. They have other people involved in their businesses that are doing these things that they are not the greatest at. And that's important to me whenever I'm bringing people on, that they have that end of it. Because like I said, people get into this industry because they want to do the thing. They want to plan weddings or make pretty flowers or bake cakes, take photos, but they're not so good at making the timelines and returning emails and sending invoices on time and all of the other things that we have to do as business owners. And I kind of have a one and done policy, you know, like in baseball, it's 3 strikes, you're out. But with me, it's just 1 strike. If we work together and you make a big mistake, then that's probably going to be it for us. We might still be friends. That's fine. But I can't bring you on. I can't force you upon my clients. I can force you upon my personal life if I want somebody who's irresponsible to hang out with, which I have a ton of friends where I'm the mommy. In every situation. But as far as like bringing my clients along for the ride with that, I just can't do it.
Yeah, I completely understand that. We have to understand their team. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what it is about the vendors I feel like I'm past that now, but in the beginning, obviously I was, teaching these photographers, like, your invoices can't look like that, or you've got to pull a package better together than this. They just, somehow the vendors are not running their businesses the way they should be. So it is a tricky thing. I've come across it a lot where I've had to kind of help them. And then now, I mean, I'm at the point where I don't do that, right? I can't have a client. I can't have a photographer who's a mess, like running their business. That's
you have to hold their hand. I mean, during COVID, I hired a violinist, strings musician, and it was for a destination wedding. And it wasn't a market that I normally work in. And it was a referral from the venue that I trusted. And we just needed some string musicians for the ceremony. And so I hired them, and they're like, okay, cool, we'll be there. And I'm like, no, I need a contract. Like, I need to give you a retainer. Like, what are you doing? We need some skin in the game here. And they're like, oh, well, ever since COVID, we had to refund money and do this, that, and the other. And we don't want that. So we just want to get paid the day of. And I was like, let me teach you how to run your business. Okay, you need to send me a contract. You need a 50% retainer. It's non-refundable. That is what a retainer is. You're retaining for the date. And then you're a strings musician. You guys cost like $700. Like, my client can give you the $350 and not get it back if something happens or whatever. Right. Or you can put in there that, if we have to reschedule, it's this kind of fee. Like, this is your business, honey. And so I've had to get on a phone call with her and teach her how to write out a contract, just to get them hired for this job. And I thought, you know what, this is your charitable work for the year, Wendy. Like, I was already, coaching for a living at that point anyways. And so I'm like, I'm going to help these poor people out. And then we have a contract with them, and my client has given them money, and I feel more comfortable that they're going to show up the day of the wedding. And we do some of these things to calm our own anxiety, right?
Right. Like, yeah, for sure. I don't want to look like an idiot with my clients. So sometimes I do have to
worry for 6 months.
I know.
Is the string musician going to show up? Like, I don't have enough Alexa Pro to like damp down all of these little thoughts in my head from these different vendors that we have to deal with.
I know. One of the other things is, we are actually doing a wedding at a ball, it's a ballroom wedding. That's what they wanted. It's friends of ours. Their daughter's getting married. So here I am, but they're a really good client. But, and it's preferred vendors. And so I'm nervous. Now, a lot of them I do know. And it's like, we're talking like a whole list. Every kind of category you could think of is preferred. And it's insane. But luckily, I've been in the business long enough. I know a lot of the vendors. So I'm picking the vendors that I know that are working. But it's, luckily they're professionals and they're great. But it is tricky if you get it to a venue that has all preferred vendors. I've never seen anything like it. And of course, we have to pay the venue. So they're getting a kickback, which it's just slimy. I don't know. I just feel like
I've had a wedding in Alice Beach before they switched over to only letting people that live in Alice Beach get married at Alice Beach. And they had vendors and it was long and we had to choose pretty much everybody off of that. I think the only person I was allowed to bring in was the photographer. And I had to get vetted to be on the list. But the thing is this client had already hired me and we were going to do a private estate backyard wedding in New Orleans at her family's property. Then her and her mom got into a fight and I'd already flown out there several times and everything. They got into a fight and decided that they're going to move it to Alice Beach, which is where she grew up vacationing. And I'm already deep into it at this point. And so then I had to make a decision, do I want to pull out and deal with, potentially refunding them because I've decided to quit, or do I want to forge ahead because this is a nice venue, people want to get married there. Right. And I forged ahead and then I said, never again. Never again. And then they stopped doing weddings there, for outsiders anyways. But yeah, I just didn't like that format. Some of the vendors were fine and they were good, but they just weren't the same as me working with my own team where we know what's going on in each other's minds. Whenever I do a design deck, that I know it's going to look exactly like I had envisioned it looking. And the rentals are slim out in that area and you have to use somebody on their list. And so it's just your creativity is dampened, it's like you're working with somebody's boot on your neck.
Yeah. It's a nerve-wracking thing for sure. So I think it's going to be okay, but we'll see how it goes. Okay. So how do you create an environment where your event team feels inspired and motivated?
I try to make everything creative myself. So generally before the florist or stationer or anybody gets started on anything, I'm making design decks. So I make little mini inspiration design decks to take to the stationer because that's generally our first touch point. And then I make full design decks before I ever even go to the florist. So we hire the florist. We base everything on the florist's minimum. And then once I actually do the design, which is a little bit closer to the wedding, that's when we can actually get an invoice from the florist. So most of my clients go into this. We have a floral budget, right? But we don't necessarily know what the floral is going to cost.
Exactly.
And so I try to keep my design fresh and not copy anything that we've ever done before. I do consult with the florist and say, hey, is there anything you've been wanting to do that you feel is a little out of the box? Because I have this client and I think it could work for them. So then they get a little bit of a chance to be involved in that part of the design. And then the photographer, I'm usually involving them as well. If we're in a tent, I'm like, okay, and we're going to put the tent here. The light's going to be coming from this direction. Should we put the altar on this side of the tent for the ceremony or the other side? Where do you think the band should go? And I get them involved in all of that before I even get started. So I think that my vendors feel like they're pretty involved in the entire process. So by the time the wedding actually comes, they're excited to be there that day because they know exactly what's going on. They've gotten to know the client as much as they're able to. Generally, the florist never even meets them until the day of, but I talk about the client so much and the things that they love, and we go through the design, and I'm like, they hated this, we did this instead, and I had to fight for this one thing, and so we've got to make it really great. And I think involving them in that way makes them a little bit more.
Yeah, I love that. I try to do the same. I think that's great. So what roles does the team chemistry play in event success, and how do you cultivate that?
Oh my God, that's everything, right? Like having rapport with somebody that you've got to work with all of the time is everything. And so, yeah, the core people on my team, I am friends with them in real life. They're the people that I call when anything important happens. They're the people that when I had a full one of those mommy makeover surgeries in July, we're the ones getting the nudes, after the surgeries over having to look at all of my scars and blood and drains and everything.
Oh my
Those
goodness.
are the people that I rely on. And so I think those are the people that people want to work with. They want to have a good time on the wedding day. The worst thing about planning a wedding is the wedding day. It's so stressful, and the manual labor. I don't do as much as I used to when I was, younger and had started the business. And now I'm nearing 50 and I'm just like, I don't want to carry anything heavy anymore.
Oh, you're a baby.
I want to sweat as little as possible. And it used to, I have a full U-Haul full of stuff I bought at like flea markets, or stuff that me and my dad like constructed and built by hand, because that's how I was trying to level up whenever I was, in the middle market. I was trying to build creative stuff. And luckily now I have production companies and the clients that'll just pay 60 grand to have custom furniture made. But like back then, that might've been somebody's entire wedding budget. So I'm crawling around on the garage floor with my, 60 something year old dad and watching him get up and get down. And I'm like, I don't think I can do this very much longer.
I stopped doing that as well. It's hard for me because I'm, that's what I'm made of. I come from working really hard, but I really can't. I'm older than you, so I can't do, and I'm strong and healthy. But honestly, I am my eyelashes hurt at the end of it.
Yeah.
Whole 3 days.
I'm in the green, like as soon as dinner service is like over, then I'm like, it's the band's job to carry us out the rest of the night. I've been here all weekend running the rehearsal dinner and setting everything up and making sure it looks right. I'm going to be in the green room with my Theragun, and I know that the photo and video team will kind of pop in and out and let me know what's going on out there. They're the ones that tell me whether the band is any good or not. Like that's where I get most of my band referrals, is through the photo and video team. Because they're the ones out there all night long watching it while I'm, unwrapping exit items or whatever we're doing in the green room. I fear I'm going to die in one of those bridal suites, and they're going to have to roll me up in the carpet and put me over the side. Don't tell the couple your wedding planner's dead until. Yeah.
I am actually the one that's kind of on the dance floor a little bit. I actually do stay till the end. I figure like I worked so hard to get to this point. And usually the couple, we're so close by the time we get there, they're pulling you on the team, so, but yeah.
You must have really great feet, because mine are like Barbie feet and they hurt almost immediately. I have to change my shoes like 3 times throughout the night. I take the little mini Theragun to my feet. My feet I literally am broken. Like I can't handle it anymore. We've been putting up a tent for days, and I've just been walking around out there. I can't.
I used to be known for really high heels throughout all of my events and weddings, and I can't do that now. Like there's no way. I don't even want to. Like I don't need to. So I put cute flats on or something. But
I got like an orthopedic shoe. I have to wear Vionic because they have that really high arch.
Yeah. No, I've given that up now. But in the beginning, I'll start out with it. But then, I can't do it. But okay, so how do you ensure that each team member stays aligned with the overall vision?
By picking the same people every time.
Yeah.
I've worked with these people over and over and over again. And at this point, it's just it's unspoken. We don't even have to say anything to each other, because I know if I think something's ugly, they're going to think it's ugly.
Right.
One thing I had to kind of stay away from with the creative vendors are companies owned by and run by straight men. It's just not the same. I've worked with draping companies owned by straight men, and but it's just like a plastic zip tie is what they call good and done. And then I had to move over to working with a different company, and now I have to bring them in from, Atlanta anytime I want to do an event where we're draping anything. I absolutely have to have them because I trust their taste level and I don't have to babysit them. And so all of it is just like learned through experience. If I bring anyone on and I have to babysit them, hold their hand, tell them what to do. They're constantly having to ask me questions. If a vendor asks me what time the cake cutting is, they're never coming back to work for me again, because I spent hours writing these timelines and sent them out to everybody. And I'm sorry, I generally don't have it memorized because I've got 30 something vendors on site and I have other things that I have to memorize. And you know why I don't have to memorize it? Because I wrote it down. So go look at it. Go look at it.
It's so true. So how do you give constructive feedback to creatives without stifling their innovation?
So we always have postmortems after weddings are over.
Mm-hmm.
And generally these are things, I don't think I ever bring anything up and the vendor is surprised by it. If they are surprised by it, then I know that they're not somebody who needs to stay on the team, right? It's things we bring up later, like, and it flows freely back and forth. So we had one wedding and the photographer said, next time I need the lighting guy to stay in the tent during the photos that we're taking of the details, because they disappear and then there's no one there to turn the lights on and off the way that we need them for photos. And so you need to make that happen for me. Great. Thanks for telling me. Also, we know we need more people lighting candles in the tent. We didn't have enough people lighting candles while we were taking photos and it was a problem. Great. Thanks for telling me. And so it works both ways. It's not just me like lecturing at them saying things went wrong. It's things that we can see happening during the wedding. And over time, those things have gotten smaller and smaller, and things that the clients and guests aren't ever going to notice, but it's things that would make our lives a little bit easier. But in the beginning, it could be things like, we didn't have enough centerpieces and this looked bad. Just things that you learn along the way. A big board. And I also have to work with people that understand the level of clientele that we're dealing with now. They know how to behave around high net worth people. They know how to speak to them. Their sales process is in order if they ever do speak directly to them, which generally I'm the one doing all of the selling for my whole team. And I think at this point, potential clients come to me because they can see that I have a consistent, cohesive team, and they just expect that they're going to end up working with those people as well.
Right. And that's a good point about, all those little details, like when you're working with vendors that know you, they're going to know all those little details that you like or don't like. And so when you have a new vendor, it's like a nightmare having to remember, okay, what are the things I have to make sure that they're going to do? So you're making me remember all the stuff I got to talk to this decor team about that I've not worked with before. It's nerve-wracking. They better have enough people to put those candles together, right? We're going to have a lot of candles. So I'm going to double check that. But, those are things I take because
my florist will hire a candle company to come in because she knows this exceeds what I can handle. So I had a wedding at Kiowa Island and we did a lot of candles, and she was like, this is destination for me. I am bringing in a candle company. And so she knew that that's something that needed to happen before we ever even sent the invoice in the first place to the couple. It wasn't something that occurred to her later on or during the wedding. And it's because she's seasoned and she's done this before.
Right.
And that's why it's hard working with people that aren't as seasoned. And I know that's frustrating to those people because they just want to get in with, planners that are working at a luxury level, but you have to go through all of the bullshit and learn all of the lessons and have the failures so that you can learn from them and then have the success later on. And I just can't trust you with somebody's, multi-million-dollar wedding when you haven't been doing this long enough and you haven't learned all of the lessons.
Yeah.
You don't have hot glue gun burn marks on your fingers. I don't trust you.
That's so true. So how do you manage last-minute changes and creative differences in high-pressure event planning, wedding planning?
Oh gosh, last-minute changes. I had a wedding during COVID, and I really didn't do that many during COVID. Most of my clients moved their wedding date, and we had one that was like 30 something guests, and it was just going to be a small dinner. and there were protests happening in the area. And the weekend before, the protesters came up into a rehearsal dinner and were harassing people eating. And I'm like, okay, we have to move this wedding. So in 48 hours, I had to move an entire wedding to a new place. And the vendors just go along with it because they trust me. I try to be cool and calm under pressure. I really do honestly believe that if you worry about something, you're punishing yourself twice.
Yeah.
Because you punish yourself by worrying to death, and then you're punished by the thing actually happening. And I think the statistic is like 90% of the things that we worry about never actually happen.
No, it's unbelievable. After all
Yeah.
these years I've been doing this, I always think, okay, I know I got it figured out. And then there's always something that happens like, how the hell did that come up? It's always something, but you
So
just
I think staying calm for
Yeah.
sure. And then that just radiates out to everybody around you.
Right.
Like if you're calm, if mommy's calm, then the kids are calm.
Yeah.
And so my couple, they stay calm. I calm them. I'm like, this is not a big deal. I've been doing this for 15 years. The people that we've hired have been doing this a long time. The photographer's just going to show up that day somewhere else. And she is an expert. She understands light. She can find beautiful spaces anywhere, things that I can't see, she sees. Not worried about her. The florist is amazing. I've watched her pull like branches and leaves out of a forest and make beautiful centerpieces. I'm not worried about her. The rental company's just going to show up at a different place. Like, these are not things you need to worry about. Y'all focus on letting your guests know, the change of plans, or give me their contact information and my team will get on it.
Right.
And don't worry about anything else. And we moved it. I think it was better than the original place.
Yeah.
That we were supposed to have the event.
I lost a venue like a week before an event, and and it ended up being better. So you never, things happen for a reason. And just through experience and time, it's going to take time to learn those things. And having an experienced team with you is also they might have some ideas to come up with how to fix something that you didn't think of. So it's always good.
I mean, my husband is like MacGyver. And so he should have been an engineer, but he's got the craziest ADD you've ever seen. And so that was not in the cards for him. Yeah. But he always has a plan for everything. I had an altar that kept kind of blowing over in the wind. And that was in 2013. Maybe 14. And I was like, that's it. Me and Jackie Ray, we're not building anything on the garage floor anymore because this is a fucking liability. Like if this altar falls on people. And so my husband came up there and he has a drill and he's drilling into points and he's like tying it back into these bushes that are like behind the thing where you can't see it, so it can't possibly fall over. And so, I'm surrounded by people who have creative problem solving skills for sure. And again, we've been through it. My very first wedding ever that were strangers that just hired me off the internet to do their month of coordination. Their caterer canceled the day of the wedding.
Oh no.
Yeah. So it's like I was thrown in immediately, and all the rentals had come from somewhere else, so all that stuff has to be like bussed and scraped off and washed, and the caterer was supposed to do the bar also, so we had to find another bar service. And it was Mother's Day, so there were no servers like available to come do anything. And so instead of panicking, I called on the people in my life that had more experience than me. A woman that ran this bridal guide, I was friends with her, and she was like, you need to call a restaurant. They're going to be the only ones that are going to have food. And so I just listened to different people. And, again, producing live TV, you've got to continuously problem solve all the time. And so we walked out of that wedding venue at like 3 a.m. after bussing all these tables, just me and one assistant, and scraping stuff off. And, I wouldn't have done that having the experience and what I know now. We weren't scraping plates. The client can just pay the fee for sending the dirty dishes back because they hired this jackass caterer, not me. But I walked out of that venue at 3 a.m. and I either could have been like, I never want to do this again. This sucks. I hate this job. But I walked out and I was like, I am a badass. I can do anything. Did you see how I saved their wedding? They didn't even know their caterer canceled because I had another one in there. Like, and that was the attitude that I had leaving that place. And you have to have it, right? Somebody is giving you a lot of money. And whether it's a lot of money to you or not, it was a lot of money to them. And oftentimes my wedding was $17,000. So every client I've ever worked with has had more money than I did for my wedding.
Right.
And so they're entrusting you with a lot of money, and everything that we do can screw up because it's one day, right? This isn't theater. They don't get to have dress rehearsals for a full week. Like they rehearse the ceremony and then that's it. We have to bring everything in and make it come together and be beautiful and what they've been dreaming of for the past year. And what we've been dreaming of as planners and designers, what we've been dreaming of for the past year. And it all has to be as close to perfect as possible. And so I don't take that lightly at all. And I'm going to do everything I can to make that wedding amazing, even if the caterer canceled the day of. I mean, think about it. When it ices and snows outside, we are out there going to these weddings. I had to drive a U-Haul. We were doing a photo booth. I own a photo booth business. And I had to take a photo booth to a wedding in ice in Dallas. We don't have trucks here for all of that. They just closed the city down. But when you've planned a wedding, you have to show up. So I'm driving a U-Haul with a flower wall in the back of it for this photo booth to Dallas, in the ice, and you just make it happen. Like your brain just switches into that mode of like, I just got to make it happen.
So my first one, this is so funny that you're mentioning that. You're making me think of this. My first wedding was like out within my business was, the ceremony was in Central Park, New York. And there was a certain spot that they wanted over this pond. It was the most important thing that she wanted, was because it was their first kiss, date, whatever, right? So this was a special place for them. We got a permit. So we had everything. We had all the buses. It was only for like 50 people. So it was small. And they had just moved into a new apartment in New York. And so there was nothing, they used the apartment as a venue. So there was nothing in the apartment. So each room, and it was an Indian Christian wedding. So we draped it was beautiful. We draped all the rooms. There was no furniture or anything. So we were able to use the rooms as the catering's over here. And then we had a long table and we had all this to go. But I didn't know that it was a 5th floor walk up. I didn't know that I needed to know this. And it was 5 floors of walking up to this thing. It was a nightmare. Luckily, this was a long time ago and I was younger then. And then the vendors who had to deliver stuff, that's an extra fee to walk up all these stairs. And I had to like get on the phone, and no way. I learned a lesson on that. And then the ceremony at Central Park, when we got to the location, somehow the city gave another permit to someone else, and it was a group of like Russian dancers or something. And unfortunately they weren't nice and they didn't want to move. So I had to go tell I didn't want to tell the bride. So I had to tell the husband to be what was going on. His brother and their sons were like 6'5" big guys. They went in, spoke to this leader, and they made it happen. I don't know what they said. They circled the guy and, but it was a bad situation, but it was beautiful. But you don't know, like, I was like, oh my God, this is such a nightmare. I couldn't believe it was all happening. It was a lot of things that happened at that wedding. The mother didn't want the wedding to happen because she was Indian. And so she threw herself on the floor and we had to get a wheelchair on Labor Day weekend. It was like a whole thing. So like these things happen, and it all turned out, they were so happy. We're still friendly to this day. So that's good. But it ended up being beautiful. And the caterer, they served food, but they had it delivered. So there was nobody to serve. So we were doing the same thing. We were washing and I was like, oh Lord, I wasn't planning.
And I mean, like when you have your ride or die team with you that you can trust on and count on, then you know that you can focus on what you need to focus on, because they are definitely focusing on what they need to focus on. And we're all a team. We're together. We're making it happen. And no one's just like, screw this and leaving you high and dry. Like
No,
they're
I
all
mean,
going to show up
you
for
just
you.
gotta, you just jump in, but I'm sure between the two of us, we have a million stories. So this is great. But so what, last question, but I do have a little lightning round that I'd like to ask you a few questions on. What advice would you give someone who's just starting out in event curation and looking to build their dream team?
Do it slowly. Don't rush into things. Build relationships with people because you like their work and you like them. Don't suck up to anybody that you don't actually like and want to have a relationship with, because it's never going to turn out well. Get your math in order. Do your numbers. Don't just charge a little bit less than what somebody else is charging. You actually need to figure out what you need to pay yourself to make your life keep moving, what your overhead is for your business, what your cost per client is for each couple that you bring on, what you have to pay in taxes, because yes, you do have to pay taxes. You're going to be making money and people are going to be writing you big checks, and you do not get to keep all of that.
No.
Not at all. You got to be ready to send to the government next year, but actually get some sort of business knowledge, or you can really get yourself into trouble.
Yes.
You know, get insurance, get some sort of mentorship, whether it's a business coach or another wedding planner or some sort of community, because you cannot do this by yourself. You need other people to bounce ideas off of.
Yes, yes, for sure. I am, part of many groups where I was going to say that it's really important to, have a community of people who are going through the same thing, where you can call and get advice or recommend, referrals of something. And so that's really, really important, and definitely getting someone to coach you along the way. I've had many coaches. I know you guys have a program, and I'm actually in it because I want to meet, other planners in there. And, even for myself, it's even though I coach, I still have a coach. So you got
right. Yeah, you never stop learning. I'm getting to a point where I haven't produced a wedding in a little bit. I've been on what I call a sabbatical, like a sabbatical for baddies. And I'm going to get back into things because I feel like I can't properly coach other people if I don't have my kind of finger on the pulse of what's going on at any given moment, because our industry is changing so much, so quickly. Every day it seems like something's different.
Right.
And so I'm starting to take on clients again, just because I have that creative itch.
Yeah.
But also just so I can kind of keep up with what's going on in the industry and remain relevant. Yeah.
It changes so quickly that you definitely need to. Okay. So we're coming at the end here. I would like to ask you a couple little questions, if you don't mind, about just personal things here. So who is someone who is inspiring you at the moment, and why?
I love everything Laura Ritchie does with Grit and Grace. Love her, love her, love her. And then Blake Sams, I think he's doing some incredibly creative stuff that we just don't see all of the time. So both of those people are very inspirational to me as far as wedding planners go.
Awesome. What's the best advice you ever received?
Ooh, that one is tough. Lots of people give me advice, and I'm starting to think, like, have I always taken it? Am I one of those people that somebody gives me advice and I think I know more than them? Because I definitely have that, Hermione Granger inside of me where I know it all. I think a lot of wedding planners have that. We do education for every single kind of wedding vendor, and the ones that sign up the least are wedding planners. And it's because they don't want to learn from other wedding planners.
That's so funny. I love learning from other planners.
I think that's great. Yeah.
Too, because also everyone's at different levels. And, it doesn't matter where you're at, you need to learn. I mean, it's great. I learn something all the time, even though I teach. So I love learning. I don't
know that this is the best life or whatever advice I've ever received my whole life. But when I started planning weddings, a friend of mine that was in my wedding planning association that I joined told me to never do an Indian wedding unless I understood the culture.
Yeah.
She's like, leave that to the Indian wedding planners. And I didn't understand what she meant at the moment. And then I did like a month of coordination for an Indian couple. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm going to leave it to the professionals. I'm going to find somebody who, does design similar to mine, but is an Indian wedding planner. And I'm going to send all the clients that come to me to this person.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Good business advice.
So what are you most looking forward to this year?
I'm taking my annual trip to Universal Studios next month with my bestie, Ryan Greenleaf, and I am very excited about that. And then I'm hoping that by the end of the year, we can start putting an addition on our home. I have resigned myself to the fact that I am stuck in Texas because my in-laws need care and my husband has to care for them. And then as soon as they, unfortunately are no longer here, it will probably be time for my parents to need care. And I'm an only child. So I want to put an addition on our house, and that's what I am very much focused on right now. And then, I'm going to do a couple of weddings in the fall. I just signed up with a marketing team and they're going to start marketing my business again. So I'll take on a couple of weddings for the fall.
That's fun. That sounds like great stuff. So one last question. What's the favorite tool that you use in your business?
I still use aisle planner. I'm an aisle planner fan. I like having everything there in one place, with budgets and all of the timelines and invoicing and contracts, and I can do everything in one place. And then I rely on Trello for my daily to-do list. If it's not on my Trello, it's not happening. It doesn't exist.
I just can't seem to figure it out.
I set mine up like a calendar. So I have 365 to-do lists basically, and they're labeled with the date. And I put everything that I have to do for that day on there, including like links. So like the link that you sent me for this, it went in there and I could just click it straight from there. Any kind of reoccurring Zoom meetings we have, everything is set up for the year in there. And that's how I use it. I use it like a daily to-do list. And then when the day is done, I change the date and move it to the end and change it to 2026.
I can't seem to I don't know why, and I'm super tech savvy, but my team uses it. Some of them, my marketing team and stuff, they just know I can't do it. Like my brain, for some reason, just doesn't pick it up. I don't know why, but it's fine.
There's things like that. I don't Slack. I don't get it.
Oh, you don't?
We use it with our integrator team and our ads team, and I'm like, it's just one really long text message thread, and I can never find anything in there that I'm looking for whenever I go to hunt something down.
I totally agree. You've been so fantastic. I could talk to you all day long. I just love this. Please tell everyone how they can find you, and why don't you talk a little bit about your program and what you guys are doing?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you're looking for Birds of a Feather, I am Birds of a Feather Events on Instagram. I don't really do a lot of Facebooking with that business. On my TikTok, unless you want to hear about, 47-year-old skincare, then that's probably not going to interest you. And then I am one of the co-founders of Educate, Empower, Encourage, more lovingly known in the industry as E3. And we do a lot of business coaching for all sorts of wedding vendors, specifically people that are either in the luxury market or they're wanting to make that leap into luxury. We do have some people that are just starting out with their business that have bought a lot of our courses on our other platform, which is just like evergreen courses that you can buy. It's not necessarily our community. And those people have seen some good results that are just starting out. They want to know how to start everything out correctly so they don't get stuck in that budget hamster wheel forever.
Right.
And then we have a course that will be starting in the spring called Language of Luxury. And that's really just all of our foundational information about how to work with high net worth clients, how to sell to them, how they think, act, and speak differently. As I'm a middle market person, I'm middle class. Most people that I know are middle class, maybe upper middle class, but they're not wealthy. I didn't grow up that way. And I think we all have a tendency that when we are selling in our business, marketing in our business, we are selling to ourselves and marketing to ourselves. But high net worth clients do not think like us. They don't act like us. They don't want the same things as us. And I mean, I think that's shown in how they live their lives, that if something is not expensive enough, then they don't put value on it. And I mean, I think we do that too as middle class people in our own way. If something came from Walmart, we're not putting as much value on it as if we bought it, at like a department store, right?
Yeah.
It's just ingrained in our brains as Americans living in a capitalist society. And so a lot of what Language of Luxury is teaching people how to speak to those high net worth clients, how to sell to them. I think a lot of people think that those weddings are too stressful or those clients are mean and they don't want to work with them. But it's actually the opposite, because they do outsource every single part of their life. And we are just more people that they're outsourcing things to. And so I don't have to do as much hand holding with those clients. I'm more doing the hand holding with the vendors and getting them on the same page and making sure everything is getting done with vendors and not so much the clients. Whereas when I worked in the middle market, those clients don't have as much money. So I'm not juggling as many vendors, but I am having to hold their hand a lot and tell them that it's okay to, spend $20,000 on flowers and it's going to be all right. And here's the breakdown of everything. And you're doing a lot of coddling.
Yeah.
And I don't have to do that with my high net worth clients. But I'm also up to the challenge, and I have the experience to execute the event that they want. So they just inherently trust me on that. So yeah, that course is a lot about
trust. It is everything,
Yeah.
It's everything. When a client says, we trust you, do what you need to do, I feel so great. That just makes me feel so good, because they need to trust us. They hired us for a reason. So
yeah, I don't want to work with you if you don't trust me.
I know.
It's just not going to work. I'm not going to send you a contract. We're just not going to do this.
Yeah.
We're excited for Language of Luxury. We'll get started in the spring, and you can find us at Educate, Empower, Encourage Library.com for all of our kind of evergreen products, courses. And then if you wanted to join the community, you could find us at educateempowerencourage.com.
Yep. And I'm in it. It's great. I love it. So hope to see you guys in there. Okay. Thank you so much, my dear. Really a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you for taking time. And I really love talking to you.
Yeah. I'm sorry I didn't fill out the thing before. I was like, I don't know what we're talking about. What does your audience want to know about?
Yeah, we did. It's great. It's great.
We can talk about just about anything. So, we have, I think we're on episode like 220 in the community right now. We've talked about everything. So.
I know it does get to that point. I have quite a few of these as well. And I mean, I love it. When I started this, when COVID hit and everyone was trying to figure out what the heck to do with their business. And so I was like, well, I need to get on the video. I need to get in front of people so I can talk to anybody. So I'm going to start a little interview thing, and, I just keep going. So I love it. I love to try to help people, and, we all have to learn from each other. So it's really important.
Love that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, hon. All right, you guys. Thank you so much. Hope to see you next week, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.